I'm still trying to take in all this earnings we've been dealing with today, but after the bell, we got earnings from IBM. IBM's been around a long time. IBM makes a lot of money. You know what? But IBM has a lot of little break off companies underneath it, or little segments of IBM that compete with a lot of other major companies that have been around a long time. So while IBM's numbers are somewhat impressive when you look at the mainstream headlines, we've got 297 for earnings per share. Now that beats by 23 cents. Now that's a really good EPS. IBM makes a lot of money. Again, we're covering that. IBM brought in, it was 19.3 billion, missing by 100 and something million for the revenue. So 19.3 billion. I mean, they again, we're seeing a theme. IBM has been around a long time. They are the face of computing for multi-generations. If you talk to anybody who talked about owning a computer, or talking about computers of any kind, IBM was almost a default name that people would think of for many generations. So it's a huge company, a lot of segments inside there. So their strategic business solution stuff, the stuff that they consider their core of their business, is cloud computing, security, and mobile. Now those are up. They're doing quite well, and they were up. They're 43% of the entire revenue that they bring in. But again, they bring in a lot of branched off departments in IBM that do a lot of other things through global financing and all sorts of different little elements. There's so much stuff that for me to even know about it would constitute me being an IBM expert. Now what I know is there's too much for me to give you a yes or a no based on an earnings per share beat and a slight revenue miss, but I can tell you that IBM's been down on a year over year basis, quarter by quarter, for 20 plus straight quarters in revenue. And I can tell you that while they're up in the segment that brings in 43%, the segment that they consider the most important, the mobile, the cloud computing, and the security, while they're up in that, that's up year over year. It's doing good. It's getting better. It only represents 43%. A lot of the other departments are down. They're down in single digit percentages, but they are down. So there's still 57% of revenues to be made up as far as what else IBM's doing. And on that end, they're not doing as well as I'm sure they'd like to be doing. Earnings per share beat, that's great. A lot of segments. They've got a lot of different pieces to the pie with IBM. This isn't just a cut and dry company that does one or two things. And they're competing with all these other major players. You got to remember that IBM isn't in a space in and of itself. Even though IBM, they made their free cash flow go up. I think it was up 2.6 billion this quarter. It's up to, I think they got just over 12 billion cash on hand. So I mean, they're a huge company, a lot of money. They've got their hands in everything that has to do with technology, and everybody knows that going in. But it's a problem of having so many different boxes that they have to check off, and so many of those boxes seem to be slowly declining. They don't seem to be building on a lot of them. They say they're focusing on this other stuff. That might very well be true, and might be exactly what they're doing, but are they going to be able to keep up with Oracle? Are they going to be able to keep up with Microsoft and Google and all these other companies that have their fingers in the exact same pie, doing the exact same cloud computing, the exact same security, the exact same... They're competing with a lot of companies that do very similar things. To gain 1% or 2% market share in those might be a struggle, even as those markets expand vast. Like cloud computing, this stuff is expanding. It's not contracting, or it's not standing still. Will IBM be able to keep up? A lot of their other departments losing percentages. What concerns me is that they're focused on this one thing. They got a lot of cash. They bring in a lot of revenue. They've got a name brand. I don't know necessarily that IBM is maybe aggressive enough. This is definitely a company with so much in depth that you need to go and you need to read. There's no investing in IBM on a whim. Don't trade on the news. None of this stuff is relevant to anybody who's doing any type of investing that they would consider long-term, secure, intelligent investing, using some foresight, some knowledge, and hopefully a little bit of luck. I would go out there and I would do as much reading, read this quarterly report, read everything you can about IBM and all the companies that compete with it, because there's so many bases that it covers that for me or you, whoever you end up being, the person who's going to click the subscribe button, whoever you end up being, to be an expert on this is to legitimately be an expert, or to be somebody who's been following IBM on a very long-term basis for a very long time. Big company, a lot of revenues, beat on EPS, missed on revs, missed by a little bit. The good segments that they are counting on are up. A lot of the segments that they say that aren't the main stuff, they're down a little bit. IBM, I'm not touching it. Just saying.